Hey there, future marcher! The time has come for you to learn how to march a show. This video will cover the key information you'll need to succeed. This includes how to read a coordinate sheet, learn reference points on the football field, and marching band lingo. So rip February off that calendar, cause it's time to march. Before we get into putting pictures or sets onto the field, you'll need to know some reference points for when you're out on the football field. First off, there are 100 yards total on the football field. And in the center is the 50-yard line that splits the field into two sides. These are referred to as side 1 and side 2. We'll reintroduce these terms more in depth later. Our second reference to look for is the front and back hashes. These front and back hashes can be found on each yard line on the football field. If you move farther away from the center of the field, there are front and back sidelines that you can use when you're putting the drill on the field. If you haven't noticed, the front sideline and hash are the ones closest to the audience. Now you should have enough background to put some of your dots on the field. Every X or dot on this drill sheet represents one marcher on the field. For each dot here, there is a coordinate on your coordinate sheet to represent the specific picture that the marcher is in. Before being able to effectively read a coordinate sheet, you'll need to know the vocabulary represented on the sheet. Here we have side 1 and side 2. These sides are in relation to the two sides that are divided by the 50-yard line. We use side 1 and side 2 because there are two of each yard line that build up to the 50. For example, you can be on side 1 of the 30-yard line or on side 2 of the 30-yard line. To know which side you are on, you'll have to look at your position in relation to the 50-yard line. For example, if you look to your left and see the 50 while facing the audience, you'll be on side 1, but if you look to your right and see the 50, you're on side 2. However, there is only one 50-yard line, so if you're on the 50, there is no side 1 or 2. Which side you're supposed to be on is one piece of information included on your coordinate sheet. For instance, on this coordinate sheet, it says side 2, therefore he will stand on the left side of the 50 while facing the press box. The next piece of information is your distance away from the yard line. Most of the time you won't be on one. Usually you'll be a couple steps off a yard line. In order to make this distinction, we use the terms inside and outside. If you're standing on a line that brings you farther away from the 50, you are outside that yard line. If you're standing by a line that brings you closer to the 50, you are inside that yard line. Another term we like to use to describe our positioning on the field is splitting. This is when you're 4 steps inside or outside a yard line. This is because you're splitting the 8 steps in between the 2 yard lines. So now when you read this coordinate, you know how to go 3 steps inside the 40. The final piece of information you can read from your coordinate sheet is your position front and back. This information will either reference the front hash, back hash, the front sideline, or the back sideline. When you're on the field, these will be the only things helping you with your coordinate. Now if we read this part of the coordinate, we know how to move 4 steps behind the back hash. Here we will go through the whole process to find the identified dot. First, we will move to the 45 on side 1. And since it says we're on the 45, we have no distance to go on our side. Then we take a look at our front to back to find out that we have to move 4 steps in front of the back hash. And that's all it takes to plot one dot. Lastly, there are some refinements and extra tips I'd like to go over now that you know how to read your coordinate sheet. One helpful tip for new marchers is when a director says set, you'll go to your set position, which is slightly different depending on which instrument you play. Another tip is when a director says to go back a picture, that means to go to the previous set than the one that you were currently at. Directors will also use letters to indicate what set they want you to go to. Letters, such as the letter B here, are used as checkpoints in the show. Also, it is greatly encouraged that you count aloud the steps in between sets and during holds, all the time when you're learning and practicing the show. And if you don't know the exact number to count, it can be found on your coordinate sheet under Move. Well, that's all you'll need to know for now. Good luck and have fun learning this year's show.